So many times during spacewalks outside the International Space Station, we can see air bubbles rising up. Can you touch on how there are air bubbles in space?
Can you be more specific? Air bubbles?
So yeah, like a lot of times during the footage, the NASA footage, you can see bubbles coming up out of the helmets or kind of from underneath you.
Often on the outside of the space station, you'll liberate little pieces of, it's a really harsh environment out there, and the outside of the space station gets beat up pretty good. And sometimes, you'll see just little flecks of paint or something that you might have disrupted floating away from the suit. And, that's generally what that is. I've never seen any kind of air bubble anywhere.
Yeah. Could it be that you're filming in an underwater pool and you're not really out there? Everyone to look up bubbles in space, hashtag bubbles in space. Thank you very much. Thank you.
You ready?
Okay, just keep telling me.
Move back. I look like I have a float head. I have a black shirt on, and it blends with the black background. So I'm just a floating head.
This is for the skeptics. Actual proof that they use wires.
You look like you're in a
Check
studio,
this out.
maybe in Omaha, Nebraska or something. The shot is so clear. Is this a hoax? Are you really in space still?
Yeah, because the air proves that you're in space.
I don't know, we're going to have to
Check
do
this.
something for
Check
you.
the man with the stripy top. Look, he grabs the wire above him. Now check the man on the right. With his right arm, he grabs the wire. Did you see it? Now check in slow motion. The man on the right, look at his right arm. He's grabbing him to stabilise him. Then look at the man behind him with the stripy top on. Now he's looking up and he's grabbing the wire. Look, he's looking for the wire to grab it. Yeah. Check that out. He's grabbing the wire there. Look, he's looking up because he sees the wire moving about and he's grabbing it to stabilise it. Now check the man on the right with the USMC t-shirt. Check his arm. Check his arm. Look, his arm goes to grab him. Look. But he doesn't grab him, he grabs the wire. Look, there's nothing there. But he's grabbing something and it's tugging his trousers up. And then check him on the left. He looks down to see. Look, he's checking it out himself. Yeah? You wanted proof, you've just got proof there. If you don't accept this, then you are just absolutely brainwashed. This is absolute proof that they are using wires on the space station, or the fake space station. You've just been busted, guys. Busted wide open.
Below, which is one of the windows we have, and that's a picture watching.
Hello.
Been here once before.
Hello.
Been here once before. With chroma key means you can use any background that you like. This is what the background looks like. This is the true background that we filmed this on. With chroma key it means you can have any background that you like this, or maybe this, or maybe this.
Definitely haven't mastered it. I'll give you a try and I'll show you just how bad it is. Practice makes perfect.
At first this looks like a full motion scene to me, but on closer inspection I think this is a suspended mode scene. When it's sped up you can kind of see them swinging, and it has the same backdrop as the other suspended mode scenes. And then there's this weird part. Rick Mastracchio puts out his hand and he moves forward. Maybe he's using his feet to wedge himself forward somehow, but it doesn't look like it. The floor is smooth. His foot is behind that blue handle that's attached to the floor that he keeps both of his feet under and keeps shuffling back and forth on. He sticks his left hand out and then he just moves forward. He is Superman. That's how Superman moves forward. He sticks out his arm and he flies. The extended mode is much quieter than the full motion mode. In full motion mode, you can actually hear the sound of the jet engines, the engines of the airplane. In every single scene of full motion mode, in every segment of the International Space Station, you can hear this loud sound, the sound of the jet engines. You could argue that it's the air conditioning system. Not even an office air conditioner is that loud. And why is there a loud sound in every segment of the International Space Station? That's because no matter how soundproof you make it, you can't filter out all of the sound of the jet engines. An airplane is just too noisy. You can put noise-cancelling headphones on when you're on a plane, and that doesn't stop the sound from getting through. It muffles it. They also use microphones that don't pick up very far away. If you have a look at this scene here, you can see that when the microphone's in the middle...
No, not one picture of the Earth. Imagine that. Thousands of satellites supposedly orbiting the Earth. Why can't we get thousands of pictures? One shot with the whole Earth in it. We should have a channel on cable that shows the Earth rotating 24 hours a day, every day. Nope. Let's listen to NASA's very own Robert Simon talk about how we get our fake pictures of Earth.
Last week, scientists at NASA released this. The shot is compiled from data from NASA's VIIRS instrument, which orbits the Earth about every 100 minutes, taking measurements of light coming off the planet. That can be translated into ribbons of imagery like this, and then into one of these. And this is just the latest in NASA's Earth from Space album, which may be one of the most mind-expanding collections of images in human history. Then in 2002, Blue Marble 2.0, NASA's Rob Simon made this. Simmons' job is...
It's primarily taking data and making pictures out of it.
That's what this is, a composite of data sets from several different instruments translated into a picture.
So we actually had to take clouds out.
They stashed the clouds for later, went onto the ocean. That came from an instrument that measures phytoplankton in the sea.
Where it was low, I colored it dark blue because they're low mostly in mid-oceans. And then where it was a little bit higher, it was like a little bit brighter green.
Then add the clouds back in.
There's a small problem with it because there's a very slight gap in between each orbit.
So some of those are painted on.
It is photoshopped, but it's has to be.
Then
there was another layer to sort of simulate the atmosphere.
And then there's this little bright spot.
It's called the specular highlight. So it's the reflection of sunlight off of water.
Those are the pieces, but you can't just slap them all together.
It just didn't look realistic. It looks kind of flat, or the clouds are sort of too see-through. So I just hit Command Z a lot.
There's artistry to creating the world.
What I imagine it to be. Unfortunately, I'm not an astronaut. I've never been to space. But I've looked at these images over and over again, trying to sort of get the essence of it. It is photoshopped, but it's has to be. It is photoshopped, but it's has to be. It is photoshopped, but it's has to be. It is photoshopped, but it's has to be.
This next-generation spacecraft will enable America to explore beyond low Earth orbit.
The kinds of technologies that we're testing out on Space Station are definitely helping us with our goals of going beyond low Earth orbit.
Early in the next decade, a set of crewed flights will test and prove the systems required for exploration beyond low Earth orbit.
The plan that NASA has is to build a rocket called SLS, which is a heavy lift rocket. It's something that is much bigger than what we have today, and it will be able to launch the Orion capsule with humans on board, as well as landers or other components to destinations beyond Earth orbit. Right now, we only can fly in Earth orbit. That's the farthest that we can go, and this new system that we're building is going to allow us to go beyond and hopefully take humans into the solar system to explore. So the moon, Mars, asteroids, there's a lot of destinations that we could go to, and we're building these building block components in order to allow us to do that eventually.
We are headed 3,600 miles above Earth, 15 times higher from the planet than the International Space Station. As we get further away from Earth, we'll pass through the Van Allen belts, an area of dangerous radiation. Radiation like this could harm the guidance systems, onboard computers, or other electronics on Orion. Naturally, we have to pass through this danger zone twice, once up and once back. But Orion has protection. Shielding will be put to the test as the vehicle cuts through the waves of radiation. Sensors aboard will record radiation levels for scientists to study. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space.
We live in the world we see with our eyes every day. You can recognize what's real, what's real, what's real, what's real, and what's not, and what's not, and what's not. I'm not going to adopt something as my belief until I've done the research behind it, and you understand that, and you recognize the power behind research and investigation.
Why has nobody been to the moon in such a long time?
That's not an 8-year-old's question. That's my question. I want to know, but I think I know. Because we didn't go there, and that's the way it happened.
In 1986, the shuttle Challenger exploded about 74 seconds after takeoff, killing all 7 astronauts inside. Or did it? It turns out that 6 of the 7 are still alive and kicking today. Ellison Onizuka claims to be his identical twin brother, Claude. Yeah, I've got an identical twin brother, Claude, too. The Challenger pilot, Mickey Smith, hasn't even bothered changing his name. He's now Professor Michael J. Smith of University of Wisconsin. Now, Krista McAuliffe was a bit of a sneaky one. She was the Challenger payload specialist, quite famous for being a teacher. It turns out during her astronaut days she was using her middle name, Krista, and now she goes by her first name, Sharon, and she's a Syracuse law professor. The Challenger commander, Francis Richard Scobie, is now Dick Scobie, which sounds like a rather unpleasant disease, CEO of Cows in Trees Limited. Judith Resnick, the Challenger mission specialist, again hasn't even bothered changing her name. She's a professor at Yale Law. And finally, Ronald McNair, another Challenger mission specialist, claims to be his identical twin brother, Carl McNair. What are the odds?
Here's where I think the animators got carried away with creative license. The astronauts' helmets don't swivel, they're affixed to an airtight ring base, which is sewn to nearly 1/4 of an inch of multiply fabric, nylon, and mylar. Once pressurized, it becomes very stiff.
Who's excited? First live 4K transmission from space ever. Let's get right to it. Johnson Space Center, can you do the audio check? Coming. We should hear it in the room very shortly.
Station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event? Yes, we're ready for the event. Please call station for a voice check.
Okay, here we go. Hello, Commander Fisher and Commander Whitson and Colonel Fisher. It is an honor for all of us and those online to join you and all of your colleagues at NASA in the first ever live 4K stream from space. What is the ISS position in orbit right now? "11 seconds.
Well, we're just passing over Baja, California, and we're heading in an arc over North America. By the time we finish talking, we'll be over Central Africa.
Wow. Amazing, amazing. Before we learn more about NASA's
Central Africa.
Wow. Amazing, amazing.
Central Africa.
Wow. Amazing, amazing. Before technology comes to life, are there any films about space that have truly inspired you?
For me, it was definitely The Right Stuff.
To have the Soyuz launch, but we are anxiously awaiting and looking forward to greeting our new crewmates up here.
Well, is there any chance that your mission might be extended? And if so, what's the word on when you'll be returning? And how do you feel about spending potentially some extra weeks up there?
Yeah, so we're still waiting to hear word from all of that, and of course our Russian partners are going to let us know as soon as they have any word.
Welcome to the cupola. Ready to play a little music?
Indeed. Your scenery looks a little nicer than ours. Have you got everything you need? Do you have your trusty floating guitar pick with you? Excellent. Mine is subject to gravity. Yeah, I know, yours matches your mission patch. Gleeks, are you guys ready to do this? Yeah! Chris, ready to go?
Yes, Ed, I'm ready.
Okay.
Let's do this.
Let's do it.
On solid fuel wires, turn the key and light the fire. We're leaving Earth today. This rocket's burning bright, we'll soon be out of sight and orbiting in space. Push back in my seat, look out my window, there goes home. That ball of shiny blue houses everybody anybody ever knew. So sing your song, I'm listening. Out where stars are listening, I can hear your voices bouncing off the moon. If you could see our nation from the International Space Station, you know why I wanna get back soon. 18,000 miles an hour, fueled by science and solar power. The ocean's racing past. At 5,000 tons, 90 minutes moon to sun. A bullet can't go half this fast. Floating from my seat, look out my window, there goes home. That brilliant ball of blue is where I'm from and also where I'm going to. So sing your song, I'm listening. Out where stars are glistening, I can hear your voices bouncing off the moon. If you could see our nation from the International Space Station, you know why I wanna get back soon. All black and white just fades to gray, where the sun rises 16 times a day. You can't make out borders from up here, just a spinning ball within a tiny atmosphere. Push back in my seat, look out my window, here comes home. What once was fueled by fear now has 50 nations orbiting together here. So sing your song, I'm listening. Out where stars are glistening, I can hear your voices bouncing off the moon. If you could see our nation from the International Space Station, you know why I wanna get back soon. You know why I wanna get back soon. You know why I wanna get back soon. Yeah, you know why I wanna get back soon. You know why I wanna get back soon.
You gotta tell me what it's like to be in space.
What's it like to be in space? Well, it's a lot like being in the pool here.